Google. Most people think Google is a search engine. That's the biggest misunderstanding in the history of technology. Google is an advertising company, one of the most profitable ever built, and the search bar is just the door it uses to get you inside. Here's the idea that started everything. Two Stanford PhD students noticed something that sounds almost too simple. Web pages that other pages linked to more often were probably more trustworthy. That's it. That was the entire insight. But once everyone was using Google to find things, advertisers realized they could pay to appear at the top of those results, and Google let them. Today, that single decision generates over $200 billion every year. You use the search for free. The advertiser pays for your attention. Google keeps the money. You were never the customer. You were always the product, and that product has been delivering profits for over 2 decades without most people ever realizing it. Amazon. In 1994, Jeff Bezos was earning a comfortable salary on Wall Street. He quit, drove across the country with his wife, and started selling books from a garage in Seattle. Not software, not technology. Books. His own mother thought it was a strange decision. But the idea was never really about books. They were just the perfect starting product. Low cost, easy to ship, infinite variety. Nobody had sold them properly online before. The real idea was far bigger. What if the internet could replace every physical store that ever existed? But here's the part that completely reframes the story. Amazon's retail business barely made money for its first decade. Bezos kept reinvesting everything. Wall Street thought he was either visionary or delusional. Then quietly, underneath the shopping platform, Amazon built AWS and started renting computing power to other companies. Today, Netflix runs on it. NASA stores data on it. The CIA uses it. A third of the entire internet sits on infrastructure Bezos built while everyone was focused on the shopping cart. One garage, one idea about selling books cheaper, now the backbone of the modern internet. Microsoft. This one is genuinely shocking when you hear how it actually happened. In 1980, IBM came to Bill Gates needing an operating system for their new personal computer. Gates didn't have one. He bought it from a small company nearby for $50,000 and licensed it back to IBM for a fee on every single machine they sold. IBM said yes, without thinking about what they were agreeing to. Because Gates understood something IBM completely missed. Hardware gets copied. Hardware becomes a commodity. But if you own the software layer that everything runs on, every computer sold anywhere in the world makes you richer, without building a single machine. Here's the detail that makes this even more extraordinary. Gates almost sold the operating system outright to IBM for a flat fee, and walked away. One different decision, and Microsoft probably doesn't exist. That near miss built a company now valued at over $3 trillion. Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg built the first version of Facebook in a single weekend. Not weeks, not months. One weekend, and the idea was almost insultingly simple. A digital directory of university students. Photos, names, basic profiles. But Zuckerberg understood something about human psychology that no platform before him had fully exploited. People don't just want information. They want to know what other people are doing, thinking, and feeling, especially people they know. Every like, every comment, every notification, each one was a small dopamine hit. Engineered, repeated, impossible to ignore. Facebook didn't build a social network. It built a psychological loop so effective that 3 billion people now live inside it daily. Here's the number that should make everyone pause. Meta reaches more than half the human population every single month. One man, one dorm room, one weekend. The largest captive audience in the history of human communication. Zara. The entire fashion industry was built on a seasonal calendar. 6 months to design, 6 months to sell, predict trends wrong, lose millions in unsold inventory. Amancio Ortega looked at that system and decided it was completely broken. His idea, don't predict what people want next season. Watch what they're already buying right now, manufacture it immediately, and get it into stores within 2 weeks. 2 weeks, when competitors were working in 6-month cycles. But here's the hidden psychological trick most people walk past every time they enter a Zara store. The shelves are deliberately kept half empty. That's not a supply problem. That's a strategy. Scarcity makes people buy immediately. because they know it won't be there next week. Customers visit constantly, not because they need something, but because they're afraid of missing it. Engineered urgency, built into the store layout itself. That combination of speed and scarcity built the largest fashion retail group on earth, FedEx. Frederick Smith wrote a university paper in 1965 laying out the concept for an overnight delivery network across America. His professor gave him a C grade. Smith built it anyway, and the insight at the center was something the Postal Service had never thought to do. Every package, regardless of destination, flies to one central hub each night, gets sorted, then flies back out before it started. In the earliest days, FedEx was running out of money so fast that Smith flew to Las Vegas with the company's last 5,000 and gambled at blackjack. He won $27,000. That kept the planes in the air for one more week, long enough for a critical investment to arrive. Today, FedEx moves 15 million packages every single day. Built on an idea a professor graded as mediocre and a blackjack table that paid out at exactly the right moment. Starbucks. Howard Schultz didn't invent coffee. He didn't invent cafes. He didn't invent anything that didn't already exist in Italy for 100 years. What he invented was the realization that America was missing something. In 1983, he walked into a coffee bar in Milan and watched people linger for an hour over a single espresso, in a space that wasn't home and wasn't work. He understood immediately that nobody in America was offering that. But here's the business truth. Underneath the warm lighting and seasonal drinks, the loyalty app holds billions of dollars in prepaid customer balances at any given moment. Customers load money onto the app before they've even ordered anything. That float, money sitting in Starbucks' hands before a single cup is poured, essentially makes Starbucks function like a bank. An Italian cafe experience became a financial instrument disguised as a coffee habit, now worth over $100 billion. Nike. Phil Knight started by importing Japanese running shoes and selling them from the boot of his car at track meets. His partner Bill Bowerman had one obsession: making the shoe lighter. He believed every ounce removed saved the athlete enormous energy over a race. One morning, Bowerman poured liquid rubber into his wife's waffle iron to test a new sole pattern. It worked. But the waffle sole isn't why Nike became worth over $1 trillion. What built Nike was a decision to stop selling shoes and start selling identity. Just do it isn't a marketing slogan. It's a psychological contract, the promise that buying the shoe connects you to discipline, to winning, to the best version of yourself. People don't buy products, they buy who they want to become. One waffle iron experiment became the foundation of one of the most powerful brand identities ever constructed. WhatsApp. Jan Koum grew up in Ukraine, where his family didn't have a phone in the house. He came to America as a teenager, cleaned floors to survive, taught himself programming from used books, and eventually got a job at Yahoo. Then he left and built one thing: a messaging app that worked over internet data instead of SMS, which meant people could send unlimited messages to anyone in the world without paying telecoms a single cent per message. People switched in the tens of millions almost immediately. But here's what makes this story genuinely extraordinary. WhatsApp charged users $1 per year. That was the entire revenue model. And in 2014, Facebook acquired it for $19 billion. $19 billion for a company making almost no money because what it owned was the daily communication habit of over 1 billion people. The telecoms never saw it coming because they were too busy counting cents per message to notice someone had made messages free. Oracle. In 1970, IBM published a research paper describing a theoretical system for storing data relationally, connecting information across structured tables rather than isolated files. IBM wrote the paper. IBM never built it. Larry Ellison read it, understood exactly what it meant for every business on Earth, and spent the next several years building the product IBM had described and ignored. The logic was ruthless. Every organization generates data. Every organization needs to store and connect that data, and whoever builds the system best will have every organization as their customer, forever. Banks, governments, airlines, hospitals, defense agencies. Oracle embedded itself so deeply into global infrastructure that replacing it became more expensive than simply keeping it. That's not product loyalty. That's architectural dependency, built deliberately. Here's the personal detail that reveals everything about Ellison. He has said publicly that his goal in business is not to compete with rivals, but to destroy them completely. Not outperform, destroy. That philosophy, combined with one research paper IBM abandoned, built a company now worth over $400 billion. Which one actually shocked you? The man who read an IBM paper IBM never bothered to act on? Or the kid who cleaned floors in America, charged $1 a year for his app, and walked away with $19 billion? Subscribe for more. I will never forget your grace.